Hello and welcome to Tartan Touchdown and Conversation With, our series of episodes telling the stories of the people within the world of American football. We have another fantastic guest lined up for this episode, and given we are recording at 9:30am in the UK, it might give you an indication of where in the world our guest is from. As always, if you enjoy listening and watching to us, please make sure you follow us on Instagram and you subscribe to YouTube and all your major podcast platforms for all the content we have out already and coming up. Before I introduce our guest, joining me in the host chair today, Sarah. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good. I haven't done the math yet, but I still think I'm ahead of Gavin podcast appearances.
Yes, I think you are.
I think
you
I
are.
am.
Gav,
So
if
I'm
you're listening,
still.
can do the maths as we speak.
Yeah, he'll be like, which one is it again? But no, very excited today. Also, I can't believe how warm it is in the UK, which is ironic given who we're talking to. But
Well,
it's really warm right now here.
it's our guest's winter though, but it's probably still hotter than our summer.
Yeah, well, let's be serious. Yeah, it'll be hotter than it is here, even if it's in the midst of a thunderstorm. But fine.
So, getting to our guest. So, our guest today joins us from the wonderful state of Victoria, Australia, although she currently calls Winfield, Kansas, and Southwestern College her home. Welcome to Tartan Touchdown, Olivia Manfre. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. We've been chatting to you for a wee while, kind of off here, trying to get this all arranged, obviously, as we'll come to, based in the States at the moment. So now we've got you back home and we've got you on. It's delighted to have you here.
Thank you. But yes, as you said, Sarah, I cannot relate. It has been a very cold day in Melbourne today, so must be very nice for you guys.
Can I ask how cold though?
Probably, I don't even know the number, but I was outside playing and it was, I would say, maybe 10 degrees, but it was windy. It was very chill wind.
Okay, maybe that is quite cold then. Fine. Okay, I'll give you that.
No, I'll digress slightly. No matter when I talk to anyone from Australia, I always tell this story, so I have to do it, Olivia. So
Here we go again, right?
I visited Sydney. We spoke about it offline many years ago. It was your winter, the UK summer. So I'm walking about in Sydney with jeans and a short sleeve t-shirt on, and everybody around me is wearing big furry hats, big welly coats, and I'm like, what is going on here? And it was the coldest day Sydney had seen for 9 years or something like that, and it was 9 degrees. I'm like, that's the coldest day you've had in 9 years. That's a spring day in Scotland.
Oh yeah, the Kathmandu, the puffer jackets, they're always on when it gets to this time of year. But
Yeah.
what's the coldest it's ever been for you that you can remember?
We've hit minus 9s, 10s, 11s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
It's been a lot colder in Scotland, but kind of where we are in the central belt, we don't get the worst of it. But yeah, minus 9, minus 10 is probably the worst I've seen.
Yeah, well, being in Kansas and experiencing an American winter, I've now can feel your pain. I think I remember the coldest temperature that I screenshotted on my phone and I sent to all my friends and family home. It was minus 27 Celsius.
Oh.
It was crazy. Like, never experienced anything like it. It was insane.
Yeah, you get that, and then you get the wind chill factor as well, which makes it even worse. Yeah, it's not. Wouldn't be my choice of place to live, but you've got a good reason for being there, as we'll come to.
Yeah, of course.
For those that are listening or watching to In Conversation With for the first time, we aim to take you through, I guess, life from the early years of playing sport right through to the present day. So, Olivia, that's how we're going to conduct this one today. So, to get started, thinking away back, I say thinking away back, you are only 21, so you've not got far to think back as I would. In childhood, what kind of sports did you kind of start playing initially?
I've played sport ever since I can remember. I think as a kid, I played a mix of like soccer, basketball, tennis. I played so many sports and I loved it. Actually, at my work, like our motto is like sport is in our blood, and literally, I believe it. Sport is in my blood. But yeah, like when people ask, like my main sport that I played growing up, I definitely say like AFL, Aussie Rules, Australian football. And then transition more recently into flag, which is pretty cool. And now doing both.
So what age would you be when you first picked up a footy then?
Funny story, but I got my first membership for the team that I barracked for, so Essendon, when I was born. That was my present from my auntie, was a membership. So I was probably had a footy in my hands forever, but I always grew up watching my brother. When I was at a young age, I didn't really have the opportunity, like it just wasn't available for girls. So I watched my brother growing up. I obviously went to the footy every weekend with my family. But the first game that I played, I was probably maybe 12, 13 years old. And I would have started playing in school. And then eventually when like the AFLW or the major women's league started up, that's when my pathway started to take off. And so it was really cool because I had something to look up to and to look forward to and to drive towards, which was really special.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, we did do a good bit of research on you in terms of your career with the footy. So if I got this right, you played for East Keilor and then Greenvale and then Keilor as well. So you say your ages that you went through, the kind of development programme stuff like that, it looks around about 2021 is really when you had your kind of breakout year, 23 goals in 16 games, which is a great return. How did your career, before we get to where you went to after that, how did your career develop through those teams and kind of local level?
I cannot believe that you found my East Keilor stats. That is so funny. Yeah, like when I was playing for East Keilor, there wasn't many women's leagues. That was my best bet. I was probably 15, 14. I don't know. You could probably find my age, how old I was, but I was playing.
I have open tier this segment, so well, I found the website has got all your footy stats all the way back to East Keilor. So 2016 it's got 2016 it's got your first stats. I don't know when that's when you first started playing or when that's the stats started. So
I was 13 in 2016. I was 13, and I believe I was playing in the under 18s. So that kind of shows that the leagues weren't really available. I was playing girls that were probably double my size, double my height. But yeah, and then eventually East Keilor folded, unfortunately. So I went to Greenvale, which is my brother's club, and I played there for 3 or 4 years. And that's where I started to get noticed. We had representative teams. So my league was the EDFL, or the Essendon District. And so I represented them. And then also then moved into Calder Cannons. And once I hit Calder, it's also when I moved to Keilor. More from a performance side of things, I knew that I was going to get better by moving to Keilor. And so we ended up winning 2 or 3 flags back to back to back. And I was playing in the under 18s and then into seniors as a youngie. But yeah, eventually moved on to Calder. Had, I think, 4 seasons at Calder. My last 2 were probably my best 2. And yeah, fell in love with the game and got noticed by Essendon in the VFL, and that was a huge opportunity for me. I think wearing my first Essendon Guernsey as a Bombers supporter, like you can just imagine, it's a childhood dream. And I kicked a goal on debut. It was a snap from the boundary. Again, I don't know how many people understand that terminology, but I have that on film, and it's something that I won't ever forget. And yeah, it was really special.
yeah, so when you obviously as you get noticed playing for Keilor, how does the process work in terms of Essendon? Do they scout you at the games and come and speak to you? How does the process move forward in terms of being scouted by Essendon?
Yeah, so they would have probably noticed me more through Coates League. So what was it at the time? NAB League. They've changed the name a couple of times. So it's Coates League now, but back in the time was NAB League. They would come to our games. You'd obviously get scouted, but every NAB League team has affiliation with the club. So being in Calder, our affiliation was Bombers. And so I got invited to train for a year. So probably my first year, once Calder had finished, I was able to train with them, and that's how I started to get recognised, and then got signed the following year. And I was playing both Calder as a top ager, and I got a couple games with Bombers that year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at some of your stats are ridiculous playing that sport. No wonder you get noticed, to be fair. You mentioned there, we mentioned before you came on, you were a Bombers fan. You're a young member since you were born. Like, you touched on it slightly there, but getting to play for your team, how amazing was that?
It was unreal. My mum and my brother, and even my grandpa, I never got to meet my grandpa, but when he came from Italy, he moved to Essendon, and it was right outside of Windy Hill. And so he would go and watch all the games, and then that flowed down through my mum. My mum went to all the games, and then that flew down to me and my brother. And so we would always go watch the footy, and being able to put that Guernsey on for the first time, it was such a special moment. And I think not even just for me, but also my family, because they get to see like their own wearing the Guernsey that they support. So it's so, so special. And I'm super grateful for the club because they've even had me back this year. I'm sure we'll get into it later into the interview, but hopefully, maybe, fingers crossed. I know I have to work my way out there, but they've given me another opportunity to potentially put that jersey on too. So super special.
Yeah, we'll kind of touch back on it a wee bit later, because obviously you continued to play it as you developed through your new sport up until last year. But looking at your stats for it, I don't know whether you know this or not. Whether this is accurate or not, I don't know. But this is your career stats at 137 games played with 167 goals and best player 55 times. That's not bad going for someone at 21, to be fair.
Where are you getting these stats?
I'll send you the link afterwards. There's a website. It's got all. It's not obviously not just yours, obviously, but it's got player profiles, and you basically when it gives you all your career stats. Whether they're accurate or not, I don't know, but I'm going to run with it because that's pretty cool.
Thank you. Is that Player HQ?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, wow. I didn't know I played that many games. That is so cool. I'm very proud of my goals record, though. I like that I have more goals than games that I've played.
Excellent. Let's we digress slightly there. I apologise. So, from watching a wee video interview that you done in terms of it was with Talent Lock, you kind of give an enough idea of your story of how you got to where you are. So, I believe it was at the end of the 2022 season, you were kind of looking for a sport to kind of keep yourself fit in the off season. How did you come across American football then? How did that cross came about?
Literally social media. An ad popped up on my Instagram and I looked into it and I was like, oh, this seems cool. Obviously, I'd heard of American football before, but I didn't realize it was a thing in Australia. So the Northern Raiders, they had a session opening and I was one of the only girls that turned up. There was 2 other girls at the time who played in the tackle team. They represented Australia a few times, but unfortunately, there's no Victorian women's team. We just don't have enough, which is really sad. So I played with the under-19 boys. I definitely copped a few hits that hurt. It was very funny. There's some photos floating around of me lining up next to them, and you can pick. I stick out like a sore thumb because I'm just absolutely tiny. But yeah, it was an unreal experience. Obviously, fell in love with the sport, but couldn't continue to play because I aged out, and that's where flag came along and kind of absolutely changed my life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously playing AFL, you'll have been used to taking some hits, I'm assuming, but maybe not as hard a hits as you maybe took playing for the under-19 boys.
Yeah, different type of hits, but it made me tougher, and I'm all better for it.
Yeah. So as you mentioned there, you aged out from playing the under-19s boys, and you then were you already aware of flag having been in the kind of under-19s team? Were you aware of flag, or was flag something new that popped up to you when you aged out?
Yeah, it popped up when I aged out. I didn't really know it was a thing, and when they talked about flag and they were having this like national championships back in 2022, I looked it up, and the first game I watched was Mexico versus USA at the World Games, and I vividly remember it. I was like, I think I'm gonna like this sport. I think I will. And so I trained a bunch for the Victorian team, but the first time that I actually played flag football was at the national championships, which is really, really funny.
Yeah. That's crazy. So obviously you couldn't have picked a better game to watch to get you into the sport. To be fair, USA against Mexico, number 1 and number 2 in the world.
Yeah.
So was it the Australian National Championships was that when you first played? So you trained with Victoria, then you got to the National Championships, and that's when you first started playing.
Yeah, so we don't call it the full nationals because there was only, I think, 4 states there, but it happened. It was one of the nationals. It was down in Sydney, and Victoria came second, which was pretty cool. We lost to Queensland, but they're the reigning champs. They're the best in the country. Like, I love those girls. They're so, so good. But yeah, that was the first time that I ever played flag, and I loved it. I'm pretty sure my first play of the game, I got an intercept, and so I was on for the get-go, and yeah, just had so much fun, and obviously made so many connections and friends through flag as well.
Yeah. So you score a goal in your footy debut, and you get an interception on your flag football debut. This is going well. Let's hope this continues as we go along. In the UK, it's like also in the UK we have the GB team. That's kind of we don't have regional teams in the UK as such. You have your kind of local team. So for you, how did it feel like representing basically your state team playing for Victoria? It's your first time playing this sport, and you're playing for your state at a national championships. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, obviously it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but coming from football, I think that prepared me so well. The professionalism of AFL down in Victoria, no other state is like it, and so physically I believed I was ready to go. Obviously I learnt a lot of the skills transferred from tackle, but again, it's a different game, so I kind of just relied on my footy instincts and it worked out for the better.
Yeah, excellent. If we move forward slightly to 2023, the game has obviously grown in Australia, especially on the women's side of it as well. But you're seeing that growth. You mentioned the tackle there's not that much, but the flag started to grow massively, and in 2023 we've seen the first ever Australian women's national team. You were part of that first initial squad. How did, talk us through the kind of process of getting into the national team and that, but to be part of that first ever national team, that must have been pretty amazing.
I was so excited when I got the call. So pretty much it was after nationals, the head coach at the time, so Paul Monero, who's someone that I'm still in contact with today. I remember him calling me, and he introduced himself on the phone, and I just froze. And I think I was in the car with my mum, and I was like, it's Paul. And yeah, I was so excited. And yeah, I like to think of representing Australia at the Asia Oceania Championships. That was probably one of my highlights of my life so far. And, there's so much film from it. We had a photographer come down too, and so you see all the little highlight reels, but it's something that I go back on and I look today. And the girls, I think the team that we had was so special, and I'm still friends with a lot of them. I have contacts all around Australia now, and that is just, it's something that is really hard to describe, but it meant everything to me, and I'm just super proud to be part of that. And we came home with a silver medal, and we had never ever met each other before. We did one training session together the week before we flew out. We had 3 days of training camp, and then we came up and we absolutely dominated. Obviously, Japan, all hail Japan, they did amazing, but I think we were more excited than Japan. There's videos floating around where it was the championship game. You see us, we had lost. We were jumping up and down, we're jumping in circles. We were just so happy and so proud, and it's something that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, it's also an honour to represent your country, but you can always say, I played in the first ever Australian women's national team. There's only a small group of us that are ever going to be able to say that, so as a source of massive pride for you. You mentioned there that the games, the Asia Oceania Games in 2023, also mentioned the silver medal. I was going to break down the tournament, but you've told us you got a silver medal, so we don't have to do that now. But ultimately, you did start off, you played Japan in the group stage, and it's a team that we'll come back and visit as we go through this story. But getting to the final in your first ever tournament and getting that silver medal and coming up against a team like Japan, who are quite an established team, it must have been, as a tournament that you mentioned there yourself, you used a couple of training sessions before you started, 3-day camp, and then suddenly you're playing in a continental tournament, which is just crazy to think about. Do you feel that as the tournament progressed, did you see yourself developing as a team from that? So you played the first game against Japan, was it 33-0 loss for your first game, and then you moved on throughout the tournament and picked up a couple of wins and got to the final. But thinking back on it now, can you see the growth of the team within the tournament itself?
100%. I'm going to take your word for it that we played Japan the first, because I don't remember. All I know is, personally, I had a terrible game against Japan. I dropped so many balls, so many catches, but then once I had my first one, I was on a roll. But yeah, 100%. I think the more connection that we got, we were spending all day, every day together. We play 2 or 3 times a day. It just grew from there, and once we had that trust in each other and that belief, 100%, it just took us to the next level. And when we versed Japan again, we actually scored on them. I think the scores were 40-something to 20-something, so it showed that we improved. And yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, so the final was 47-29 in the final, so that's a big difference from 33-0 in the group stage. So I don't know why you played Japan first. I meant to say you played them in the group stage and you lost it to them in the group stage. That was the only loss you had in the group stage, what I meant to say. But yeah, you say 33-0 in the group stage to then 47-29, so putting up effectively 4 touchdowns against them in the final is a massive difference from that group stage. So yeah, I mean, from the first ever tournament you play in to get a second place, that's a not bad place to start as a national team, is it?
Yeah, I know, you can't really complain about that. It's pretty good. We're happy with
that. So what we'll do now is we'll shift the topic slightly back to your own personal journey, because we're kind of trying to do this in chronological order. So as I mentioned at the start, you are currently a student athlete at Southwestern College in Kansas. Take us back to the process of how the kind of potential for you to get a scholarship there came about, and kind of what is the timeline from that first conversation till deciding to commit at Southwestern?
Yeah, so pretty much once I'd finished up the tournament at Asia Oceania, the men's head coach at the time, Jamie Stafford, he's like, oh, what are your thoughts on playing in college? And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't really think much of it. I thought, oh yeah, it sounds cool, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen. And sure enough, he clipped up my film and he sent it out to a bunch of schools. He emailed so many schools, and we had a fair few reach back. I got a couple offers, but it wasn't until I think maybe May that I actually signed officially. And so it was a really long process. Scholarships are really hard to find, especially with flag being an emerging sport. So I went through an additional scholarship process with Southwestern. So it was a transfer scholarship. So I did uni here and I essentially applied for this transfer scholarship. I had to undergo a bunch of interviews. I had to do a written essay, Times written essay, and it was only awarded to one person. And so I was lucky enough to get that. And once I got that, the money essentially, it was a no-brainer because they'd covered my scholarship. So yeah, that's kind of why I chose Southwestern, and obviously very grateful for that opportunity. And the staff are lovely. You know, I have such a good relationship with the teachers over there, and in the admissions, even my professors. It's quite a small school, and it's very different from college life here. But yeah, it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah. So obviously, you just mentioned that it's May 2024. You've committed to go in there, and I think they announced it in the July that you committed. So it's a long time before the start of the regular season. It's almost a year before you're actually playing your first game. So there was a lot still to happen in your career before you even got to Kansas. So as I said before we started this, for someone so young, you have done so much already, and we've so long been talking about this, and we're only at 2024. So. What we'll talk about now is something that happens slightly later on, but it kind of falls into this at the moment. So part of you accepting the scholarship to go to the US was a massive change in your life, but it did mean you have to give up playing footy with the Bombers at the time. How hard was that to walk away from a sport and a team that you've loved since childhood?
It's probably one of the hardest decisions that I've had to make. You know, going over to America was so unknown. Like, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had all this security with football. I'd played there for 3 years. I'd come off a really, really good season. I actually got leading goal kicker that season. And so part of me was like, oh, like, what if this doesn't work out? Like, you've just done so well. And you know, I'm obviously going to have those thoughts. It's still something that I come back to today. Like, what if I'd stayed and, you know, I could have had potentially progression in AFL, but I think flag just lit this fire in my belly that I can't really describe. And while my heart is still pulled in both directions, you know, people ask what I love more, and I can't answer that question, but I think flag just had a little bit of a pull, more of a pull, and I thought, well, it's not available in Australia, especially in Victoria. There's not really places for me to train. We don't have a team. And so moving to the US was the best option if I was to pursue flag. And yeah, I'm glad that I did. I had an unreal experience. I came off my first season pretty well, which is what I was happy with. But yeah, it was really, really scary and it was sad. But thankfully, I never really had to give it up in the end. Back playing now. Back playing now. So yeah, I signed with the Bombers essentially as soon as I got home. I think I got back home on a Monday, and the next day, I was at training and I was ready to go. So that's how you know I was so excited to come back. And I love playing two sports now. I think you get off the back of a season and you're absolutely exhausted. Like, I know me, I've done everything possible that I can, and sometimes you're like, oh, I just need a break. But I think playing two sports, my mind's able to kind of not switch off flag, but it's like, okay, I'm not able to have this mental break off from flag and I can focus on footy. And I found that it's probably been the best transition that I've had since. So it's been really good.
Excellent. We'll come back to talk more about that as we get further down then. So we're still in 2024. You've played in this for Australia at the Continental Championships. It's now the 2024 World Championships. So you've represented your country at a Continental Championship. You're then called up to play at a World Championships. How describe that to us? How does that feel?
Again, it's such a surreal moment. Like, not many people get to say that they've ever represented their country before. And so to have another go at it, again, I was absolutely ecstatic. I actually flew to Finland from America. So I had moved all my stuff to America, and a week later I was back out in Finland, and I missed the first kind of week of school. But yeah, I think a lot of the Australian team was pretty disappointed with how Finland went. I think we ended up 2-6, 2 wins, 6 losses. And so personally, while I think that I had a really good tournament and I think that I've really developed and progressed from Malaysia, it just left this kind of really unsatisfying feeling because we went from being 10th in the world to being, I think, we ended up finishing 16th that tournament. And so it was pretty disheartening, but again, having that experience to play against the best teams in the world, we represented USA. I can say that I scored a touchdown against the USA in the first play of the game. It's pretty special. And yeah, just every opportunity, every moment that I get to put on the Australian jersey is something that I'll always remember, always be grateful for, and just pour my heart into doing the best that I can for my country.
Sarah, have you shared my notes with Olivia? Because every time
No.
every time she says something, I'm just about to talk about that. So
Yeah,
you mentioned
no, it's good though. Yeah,
it's excellent. It means that I've had it. So you mentioned there, like, I'll put it up a bit higher than you did there. So you're playing against the USA, the best team in the world. Everybody knows that the USA are. You line up, first snap of the game. Casey takes a snap, and you bomb it down the sideline, leaving all the DBs in your wake. And that first touchdown. So you've the first touchdown of the game. Australia are leading the USA at a World Championship, and you've scored that touchdown. I've seen the video and I've seen your celebration. That must have meant a lot to you.
Yeah, there's photos, there's videos. I think Andy Keith, massive shout out to him. He got the moment that I had celebrated. And again, so special. You see how excited I am and the way that my teammates get around me too. It not just meant something to me, it meant something to everyone. Like, we were able to say, hey, just for a small moment in time, we bet the USA, but we actually scored against them because not many teams do. But we were all so happy, and it was, again, such a special moment, and another one for the history books. But yeah, I love Casey Cubis, so massive shout out to her. Obviously miss playing with her, but yeah, it was so good, so special.
Yeah. So in the tournament, you finished in the group stage 2-2. You got a victory over Sweden and Ireland. You played Ireland in the first game, you defeated them, and then you defeated the USA and France. And you mentioned there he's went into the playoffs and ended up ultimately finishing 16th, which you said was you were 10th before, dropped to 16th. Reflecting on that now, can you think back and not what you could have done better, because that's not a very obvious answer, but is there something you feel that you could pin on the fact that it didn't go as successfully as you wanted it to?
Yeah, I think that there's like a lot of things that we're always going to think of. Oh, what if we did this? What if we did that? I think preparation was a big one. We only had 3 camps, but there was a lot of change between those camps of the types of things we were doing. We changed our playbook, and so our final camp before flying out was when we finalized the new playbook, and I think that was so important. But had we had kind of a little more time to kind of nail that playbook a little bit more, I think that would have helped. But, also it was the first World Championships that we've ever been a part of. And so we've actually got a baseline now. So as much as it was hard to come away from, I think that we've kind of experienced that. We know what to expect a little bit from these countries, and we're going to make sure that we do our best to make sure that we actually can compete. And yeah, we don't want to be 2-6 ever again. So massive learning opportunity too.
And unfortunately, you came up against Japan in one of those games again. They just seem to be your old foes, don't they? They just seem to be the team that you just can't. But to be fair to Japan, I watched Japan at those Worlds. They are such an emerging team in this sport. Some of the plays that they came up with, just out of this world. They are a team to watch over the next few years, definitely, Japan.
Yeah, and their quarterback actually plays for another school in Kansas. So, yeah, she's once and every time I've played her, we've lost. And so when I see her, I get some nightmares. But, yeah, she's an amazing QB, and Japan keep doing so well. So definitely a team to watch. But Asia Oceania's coming up in a couple months, and hopefully I can be on that team. But absolutely, that's going to be the goal, to beat Japan for the first time.
Yeah. Actually transitions us back to talking about Southwestern. There is something about the state in that area of Kansas where there is a lot of women's flag football teams. There's a massive league there. We are going to be talking to, I'm not sure if you know or not, Tatiana dos Santos. So she's Panamanian. She plays for Ottawa. So we're going to be talking to her later this month as well. But there seems to be something within that area of the USA where women's flag football is really blossoming at the moment.
Yeah, it's huge. And obviously you're getting to talk to Ottawa, but their coaches, kind of Liz and Kate, I'm pretty sure they started the league. And so that's probably why it's so big in Kansas. But yeah, so obviously you have the Kansas League, you have the Florida League, and I think recently, a couple of days ago, just got announced that there's going to be another NAIA league that is centered in Arizona and California. So that'll be another bunch of schools that are coming in. But it keeps growing, and it's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned it yourself. There wasn't a lot of scholarships for flag football generally across the board, never mind the women's sport. So it's great to see that it's been taken as seriously as an actual sport now, that people are getting scholarships for it, because it's the only way the sport is going to progress if they start doing that.
100%. And especially for international students, it's so hard. We have to pay up front, you have to think of exchange rates. And so having another kind of source with the transfer scholarship at Southwestern, that was so important. And if more schools are able to offer that, it's only going to help kind of make these leagues grow and get the best players possible to just make it a competitive league for everyone, which is just going to benefit the sport and obviously for future kind of girls coming through.
Yeah. You say future girls coming through. You are young enough to be those future girls coming through.
Yeah, that's true.
And you mentioned just a minute ago, you obviously got to the USA now. You were back out to Finland for the World, so I'm assuming back for the World you moved back to Australia. So with the Aussie way of life being so relaxed, I love it. I'd love to move to Australia. It suits my personality down to the ground. But how did you initially settle into life in the US when you kind of got there permanently?
Yeah, so I actually flew from Finland back to the US, and I was straight into classes. I had missed the first week. The first semester, I think I found it a little bit challenging in terms of kind of being away from home, adapting to a new life. I think the second semester, I definitely found my feet a little bit more. But yeah, college life, it's crazy. Especially for me, I decided to do a health degree because I don't know, I'm crazy. So I did a little bit more of a challenging one, but kind of what it would look like was I would have gym in the morning. So from about, I don't know, 6 till 7:30 or 6:30 to 7:30, I'd have gym. Then if I had time, I'd go back to my room and shower. Otherwise, I have to go straight to class from about 8 till kind of 12. Then I have lunch, then I have another class, and then it's practice. And that's pretty much every day. So it's very full on. I think having the professional background from footy definitely helps. Obviously, training load wise, my body wasn't used to it. I was pretty sore getting to Thursday, Friday because we don't really train every day, but America, that's common. So credit to them that they're able to do it. But yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge, but I think once I found my feet, found the routine, and obviously developed a good group of friends, which I'm hoping to stay in contact with because, they're kind of transferring out everywhere, which is a little bit sad. But yeah, found my feet. And then second semester was when the season started. And so it was actually pretty good. I'm glad that our season started in the fall. I think it's fall, not the spring, because it kind of enabled me to get used to life, of what it looks like. And then eventually, move on into season, which again is even more hectic because we would play 2 times a week. So there's some days where during the week I'd have to go from classes, then we get on a bus. The bus ride can be anywhere from like 1 hour to like 3 or 4 hours, go and play, come back home, and then next morning we do it again. And that was twice a week. So it was crazy, but again, another experience that is only going to help me learn and grow as an athlete and a person.
So as you mentioned, the regular season was kind of about March time it started, looking at the fixtures. And that's when I can tell you I didn't go into the troves of the internet to get these stats from your team's own website. So he's finished across the regular season as a 6-6 record he's had across the season, and then it was the Kansas Collegiate Athletics Championship where lost to William Woods kind of gave us that 6-6 record. I know there was another tournament after that, but just generally on that regular season, how do you feel that first season went?
Yeah, I think coming off from what I've heard, coming off the back of last year, it was a better record. Again, it was really cool. I think there was a little bit of a changeover in the personnel, so we kind of had to find our feet again. New quarterback, which is always a little bit challenging, but yeah, it was a really good experience. I think by the end of the season, we had really started to gel and kind of play our brand of football. The KCAC Championships was again really cool. Another opportunity to kind of verse the other teams. And yeah, I think we still have a lot of development. I'm not sure what next year is going to look like for me personally and for the team, but it was an unreal opportunity and experience, and I think no matter what happens, the team will build from there.
Yeah. Something that we're not used to, especially in Europe anyway, in the world of flag football, is punting. Talk us through how punting works in flag football, because it's not something that is very alien to us.
Yeah, it's alien to you guys. When I heard there was punting, I was ecstatic because I was like, I can do this. This is what I do on a daily. But yeah, so the college game is slightly different to IFAF rules. So it's a bigger field. It's first and 20. And it's essentially almost the same length as a normal football field. I think it might be 20 yards shorter. Again, it's wider. There's 7 players on the field. The QB can run. We can pitch. The block we can block. The rusher is on the 1 yard line. There are quite a few differences, but obviously it's still the same game. And then with punting, so on 4th down, if your team is too far to kind of make a first and you don't want to have the other team start where you finished, you'd punt the ball. And so I was the punter. And yeah, again, I was used to it. I said to my coach, I was like, this is what I do. Let me show you what I can do. And yeah, I was really, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And finished off the season with, I was the first team all conference for punting. So I was pretty happy with that.
So look again, if these stats are correct, they might be more, but assuming they are because they're from the team's website, you finished the season with 56 receptions for 708 yards and 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on defence, over 1,200 punting yards. Travis Hunter, step aside, we've now got a 3-way player.
Yeah, I know, can you believe it? No, don't say he can take that. But yeah, again, it's super cool. I think one thing that I was really grateful for was the opportunity to play multiple sides of the ball. You know, when you look forward in time to the Olympics, they're only looking at 10 players, and so being able to be versatile and play both sides of the field is something that I was really excited to develop. You know, as you said, I finished off with more interceptions than touchdowns. And so that did hurt the ego a little bit because I love playing offense. Offense, you know, I think that's always going to be my number one position. But yeah, it was a really good opportunity to play defense. And yeah.
Yeah. As you mentioned about punting, it seems to be, I'm not sure why they chose you to be the punter. I can't see the link, but to be fair, but you've seen it more within the NFL now. The Aussie punters, they're starting to become, the technique they're using now is becoming more and more common because with punting in the NFL, obviously you do need to get a certain spot, whereas with Aussie rules, you literally need to kick it to someone standing in a specific spot. So you can see why a lot of the Australians are now transitioning into NFL as punters, because the accuracy they've got is unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's something that we've grown up with. I brought a footy up to America, and I would always use it in the warm-up before practice. So one of my teammates would catch it for me. She never kicked it. She didn't want to kick it back, but she'd throw it back. Big shout out to her. But yeah, they've never done it before, and they don't really understand the technicality of it, whereas we're kicking from the age that we can walk. Like, again, we grow up with it, and so it's really cool that Aussies get an opportunity to, you know, go through those pathways and eventually end up in the NFL, which is, yeah, really exciting. I don't know how that will go with flag. Obviously IFAF rules don't allow it, but I can say that I was an All-American punter, so I'll take it.
Yeah, you did get a few awards at the end of last season for all your performances. So for yourself personally, obviously you mentioned the team's performance, but for you personally, how would you reflect on your first season in at Southwestern?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with my performance. I think one thing that I'm always looking to do is be more consistent. So that's going to be a goal of mine in whatever sport I play or whatever comes next. But yeah, I was really, really proud, obviously, coming home with the first team all punter, or special teams. I came home with second team all defense. I got an honorable mention from wide receiver, and then within kind of the school, we have our own awards. I got best individual performance, and that was across men's and women's programs. So yeah, I came home with a lot of accolades. Obviously, they're not anything. It's obviously good to get recognized and helps with stuff. But yeah, all my goals are going to be to develop and just become the best athlete that I can be, and to obviously represent my country and be a better athlete for my country.
And you're doing all that on top of doing very well with your health degree as well, going by the numbers that the college is putting up.
Yes, it's a struggle, but I just want to try and do the best that I can in everything and give it 100%. So why not?
Excellent. Sarah, over to you.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So we, especially when we're talking to kind of young female athletes in particular, I like to take kind of a moment just to kind of focus on like the female, like the aspect of being a female in any kind of competitive sport. It's a recurring issue that seems to come up quite often, and especially now as we're looking a bit more into injuries and how somehow we can impact that depending on where we are in our cycle. So let's just start with kind of your experience as a female athlete. So when it comes to your training and like kind of game days, do you notice kind of any patterns or shifts in your performance like across like a typical month for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it does vary, and especially with kind of the menstrual cycle and stuff, but I do like to try and have a routine with what I do and just kind of control the controllables and help me get grounded. But yeah, absolutely. Whether that's in the gym, I notice, oh, I can't lift as heavy this week, or, I really struggled running. And yeah, it is a massive thing, but hopefully we can get some more research because I think that it's absolutely important. And you mentioned injuries as well. We are more likely to get injured, and it is sad, and we just hope that we can help prevent that in the future, and that's only going to come with research that's focused on us in sport.
Dan, it's so funny. See, when you were like, does she have the notes? I don't know how she's done this, but she's literally just like picked up everything. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, here we go. So yeah, you mentioned they're obviously kind of more about like how like tuning in and like kind of changing up what you're kind of doing. So is there anything in particular you found that's like helped you? So do you tend to like know yourself, okay, well I need to slightly lift heavier like this week, but I still want to try and like move my body? Is there anything else you do to maybe stop, like, so for example, while I'm not like an athlete, I still like weight train, but I'll tend to do like maybe more of a yoga on like a week that I'm like menstruating because it's not as like intense. So just if there's anything that's like you found helped you out with that.
It's actually so good because I don't really change my routine. I do notice my performance, but I try and again keep it the same. I think from a I don't know if I'm going to jump ahead here, but an injury side of things, I think that my preparation is super important. Doesn't matter what kind of game I'm playing, whether that's for local, whether it's for VFL, whether it's for flag. You're going to see me do the same activation, same warm up on my own before I join the team because I think that it's super, super important. So yeah.
Yeah, just like obviously like tuning into yourself, because obviously what might work for your teammate and then the teammate after that is different from how it works for you because it impacts everybody like so much differently. And I think that's the difficulty I'm finding with researching and talking about it, is a lot of people just think it's a one size fits all, and that's not true, because not it doesn't we don't all have the same 28-day cycle. I sometimes sit on a 50-day cycle, which sucks, but
Yeah.
and then I know people who have 20-day cycles. So I think it's really important when you say about it's all about tuning into yourself and realizing and kind of noticing the patterns. Do you find that it's like an open conversation for like these topics within the team and like coaching, or is it something that's still a bit of a taboo, under the radar topic?
Within like footy, I think it's pretty open. Like we're pretty open with each other about it, and obviously at Bombers having kind of that high performance environment, we do our wellness, and one of the last things in wellness is what stage of the cycle we're on, and so it kind of gives our high performance director an indication kind of where we're at. So I think we've done a really good job to keep those conversations open, and again, like you said, it's so different for everyone, but at the end of the day, it's just acknowledging kind of, okay, maybe I can't get a PB every week, but it's just being okay with that. And it's okay to have an off day. But yeah, just not to kind of be confronted by it. And then while we're talking about this, another thing that the AFL did, which I think is amazing, is that they banned white shorts for women. So yes, and I think it's the best thing that they've done, because a lot of the time so many young girls would be so self-conscious about wearing white, and in America I had to wear white shorts and I absolutely hated it. We had an all white uniform And I myself got so self-conscious about it, but the AFL did an amazing job with it, and I think it's only going to help participation in sport too, because you look at some surveys and that is part of it. And while people might not think, oh, it's just white shorts, it does, because we do get self-conscious about it. So yeah.
Yeah, like there was a conversation about how like women's like soccer players didn't want to wear white shorts, and a lot of men's were coming, like having a bit of an up arms, being like, why do they want to wear white shorts? It's just the uniform, it's this, it's that, and it's like, you don't understand. And it's then it has an impact on how you play psychologically, because you're not thinking of the game, you're thinking of, oh my god, I'm on a national platform or whatever it is that you're on. There's cameras, there's everybody watching me, especially with the age of the internet.
Yeah.
And people are mean. People
Yeah,
are mean.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah. But that's really positive to hear about footy, because I mean, if we could implement that everywhere, I think we'd be a much happier time. In terms of, you obviously touched upon like injuries, in particular ACL injuries, which obviously tend to impact women at higher rates comparatively when we're on our cycle, because we don't produce the same amount of collagen and everything else. Is this something that's like kind of discussed? I take it as probably in footy they talk about it quite a lot, and just being careful.
Yeah, 100%. And I touched on the preparation part too. So prior to the game, we jump land. So every game, it doesn't matter whether I was playing flag in America, whether I'm playing Bombers here, I would do my jump land stuff. Like even today when I played, I'm the only one out there, but you'll see me doing my jump land and making sure that I feel like that my body's right. Because again, we don't want to put ourselves at risk of those injuries. And so having that preparation, starting in the gym and then on game day before every training, it's so important. And I wish that I could bring some of my teammates along with me with that, because in America, it wasn't really that common. Like I would do my warm-up routine and my teammates would see me do it, but I just don't think that the knowledge about it was around. So it's so important. And I think that the more teams that get involved and start to kind of understand the things that we need to be doing, it's only going to help, A, for participation, 2, for longevity, for athletes too, because no one wants to be on the sidelines, especially with kind of those serious injuries.
Yeah, there's a wee question for Olivia. I'm not going to pretend that I know the biological side of all this, but it's more of a practical question. So you also mentioned that footy's made massive strides in dealing with these things in terms of the shot. Such a simple thing to do, but it makes a massive impact. Going back to Southwestern, obviously you mentioned the all-white uniform. Is it something that you've raised with them in terms of the concerns? And is there any kind of conversations about them changing, or has it been flatly, no, that's the way it is? Kind of how they deal with it over in the US?
Yeah, it is something that I brought up with my coach. But that was the uniform at the end of the day. And in America, a lot of teams wore the all white. So I think that uniform is just pretty common over there. But I did not feel comfortable wearing white. Every time I had to hear we were playing away or wearing white, I was like, oh no. And I would always like get my teammates to just check and make sure, because I felt it was at the back of my mind. And if that's what I'm thinking about instead of the game, like it's not going to help my performance. It's not going to help my team's performance. So hopefully teams can start to recognize just the little things. Like it's so small, but it's going to have such a big impact.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what that'll look like in the future for whether that's my school or other schools, but I think it is important to discuss these things, because it's just going to make us more comfortable as athletes, and that's only going to help benefit the game. We can get another color away uniform, but it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the colours are just purple shorts. You're not asking to redesign a whole uniform. You're like, just let's have purple shorts. It's such a simple change that can be made. I can't remember who we had. I don't know if it was Sarah, a female guest we had before. It's like you mentioned it there yourself. Like, as a male athlete, all they have to worry about is running onto the field. They once they're on that field, they have nothing to worry about. You mentioned yourself there. If you're wearing that white uniform, there's so much other stuff that you can't really lock in 100% on what you should be doing, because there's so many other things. Like, as a male, I do try to understand this as much as I possibly can, but I just can't comprehend that how a female has to think about all those things on a field. I just don't understand why as a school or as a team, you wouldn't want to make things as easy as possible for, because at the end of the day, the team wants to succeed. So if they want to succeed, they need you 100% locked in. So just give me purple shorts. I don't see any issues here. And I know I might be trivialising that there, and I don't mean to be like that, but to me, look at it from the outside as I mean, like, it's a simple change that if you go to your team and say, as a group, say, like, we can't have white shorts, can we go to work? Because it actually happened in the Women's Premier League in England recently. And it was the Aston Villa team wanted to, and they were like, we won't wear white shorts. And there was such a fight. And I'm just like, why is it a fight? Why do you have to have a fight about a colour of shorts? I just don't get it. And I do try my best to understand it, but I'm very practical, thinking, like, why can't you just help these women with a simple solution? Sorry, I'm going on my soapbox here.
You're okay.
The wife will be really happy that I'm coming across a bit of a feminist here, to be fair. So I love it, and you go.
It's funny because I have a story about this, but it was my first time that I had worn the white uniform, and it was at a tournament that we were playing at. And I was foam rolling, and it had been raining, and I was on the athletics track, which was red. And so I was foam rolling, and I didn't realize that it picked up. And so I did have like red stains on the back of my shorts. And I was like freaking out. I said, like, can we please get another pair of shorts from the car? Like, I was so self-conscious about it. And like, obviously I had female teammates with me, and it's like, Liv, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Like, don't worry. It doesn't look that obvious. But it had from the get-go. And that was right before my first game. And it hit me, and I was like, oh, these bloody white shorts. And so it did traumatize me for a little bit. But it's just a simple things. And like you said, just change it to purple. It would just help everyone, and including me. I agree with you.
And then we'll get back on her every time we talk about this. It's just nice. It's obviously Dan saying about how he doesn't want to like come off as like being on his soapbox, but it's always nice to just hear somebody from the other side like actually like understand and appreciate it, because not a lot of men get it or try even to comprehend the magnitude of it for somebody. So moving on from kind of obviously women specifically, let's talk about Athlete Confidential for a moment, which I think I was doing my research on it. What like an inspiring and important platform about mental health, in particular allowing athletes to like share their own stories surrounding mental health and just let it out that, you know, you don't have to do kind of go through these things alone. So what first drew you to being part of that community?
Yeah, so I saw kind of the Athlete Confidential pop up on my Instagram, and it was at a time where I was struggling with sport a little bit and the mental health side of things. You know, you have things about selection, you have things about setbacks, and doubting yourself. And so it came at a really important time, and I started to go through their content, and I felt that it really resonated with me. Their motto is like human first, athlete second. And while sport is such a big part of my life, you know, I have to kind of make sure that I am putting myself first and making sure that I'm okay and with the mental side of things. And then there was kind of opportunities for ambassador applications to come up, and so I applied. It was kind of a pretty long process. I went through, there was a bunch of interview questions that we'd have to submit, and then I got through that stage. Then we needed to create a video. My video is coming soon, so I think in the next couple weeks you might be seeing that on the socials. But yeah, we submitted the video, and then they cut it down again. I think they had kind of close to 300 applicants, and they ended up selecting 20. So again, something that I'm super proud to be a part of. And yeah, there is a lot of kind of stigma around mental health and sport. And, you know, I am kind of taking an approach to try and be more vulnerable about it, because, you know, being an athlete, it is hard, but I think it's really, really important, and it's something that I'm really excited to be a part of, and hope that other people can see the content and, you know, get the same response in helping them feel seen and that they're not alone in their journey.
I know for sure. And do you think there's like any particular practices or mindsets that you've adopted to like help you obviously kind of through your own journey of like mental health, like even coming out of a game, and like is there anything you do in particular to like help you kind of evaluate, I guess, and kind of move forward from even like a bad performance?
Yeah, I think I do like to write down kind of in journal a little bit. So whether I'm doing that after the game, whether it's, you know, watching the film back and kind of writing that down. But I think it is really important for people to have their own routine, whatever that is. But yeah, also coming from a sporting sense, I think kind of switching between flag and footy has really helped because it kind of stops me kind of overthinking, oh, what if I did this in flag? So having an outlet, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be doing a whole nother sport like me. It could be as simple as kind of, I don't know, picking up a hobby. But yeah, I think that's really important for everyone to kind of have their own routine, whatever that is.
And do you even, I mean, obviously you are still so young, but do you think even in the short time, even though you've accumulated so much in the space you've been like playing, do you think it's the mental health kind of conversations evolved? Do you think it's got better? Do you still think there's a bit of a stigma to like break down?
Yeah, I definitely think it's evolved. I think it's probably more open in the women's space. I obviously can't touch on the men's space, but it is something that we talk about, particularly at Bombers. You know, when they're in camp, we do have kind of this opportunity to talk about that. And I think that within kind of the female game, there is a massive emphasis on belonging. And I actually heard this quote the other day, and I can't remember who said it to me, but for females to perform, they need to feel like they belong, and for like men to perform, for men to belong, they need to perform. I can't remember who said that to me the other day, but it was, yeah, I was like, oh my god, this is so true. But I think with everything, there's such a long way to go. So I think hopefully with more kind of brands like the Athlete Confidential popping up, it's only going to help athletes and the mental health thing. It's such a big part of the game. You know, if you're cloudy going into the game, it's going to impact your performance. And you know, even off the field, like I said, part of their motto is human first, athlete second. So yeah.
Just a wee question, another question on this for me, Olivia. In terms of, you mentioned they're obviously footy are well advanced. They seem to be more advanced in a lot of sports in terms of mental health and the women's performance and stuff like that. If there's a couple of things that you could take from footy and implement into the world of flag football from that side of the game, what sort of things, like, you're in a unique position where you're basically playing footy in Australia, but you're going to college in America. So if you could take something or a couple of points that you think, let's implement this in flag football to help female athletes first, and obviously we spoke about uniforms, so you can't use that as an answer. That's a cheat answer. But you could take something from footy to flag football in terms of the women's uh, considerations, and from a mental health point of view. Which one of each of those two things would you feel would translate and it would help athletes better?
Yeah, I think when I compare kind of the two programs, if I look at kind of Bombers and I look at my time at Southwestern, I think that with Bombers, it's obviously a more developed program. We do have access to things like sports psychologists that will come in and speak to us. So like when we're in camp, we usually have a topic that we would talk about it. And so I think just bringing more awareness. Obviously, America's kind of real crazy about sports and performance, but I think the one thing that they could probably learn is to look at athletes from a holistic point of view, you know, medically, physically, they've kind of still got a long way to go from what I kind of think of. And then also kind of mentally. So having workshops, making people aware of those things, because it took me so many years to kind of understand it. Even though I had these workshops available, I think as I got older, I started to really understand it. And that would be kind of 3, 4, 5 times that I've heard the conversation, and then it was the 5th time that I actually understood it. So I think having things like whether it's sports psychologists that are involved in the school, I think that will really help and just benefit athletes, especially in the college pathway too, because of how intense the schedule is.
Well, that's really Dan's last question brings kind of a good one for me to kind of close this little segment on. So, and this is going to be difficult for you, so I'm sorry in advance.
Okay.
But if there was one thing that you wished younger female athletes were taught earlier, whether it was about their bodies, their health, or their mindset, what would you want it to be?
Oh, that is such.
You don't have to have one answer. We'll let you have a couple of answers if you have to.
Yeah, I'll let you like make a little point, but you know, just like
Yeah.
in particular, if there's one thing that you just wish they knew, because I can tell you what mine. I can tell you what mine is straight away.
Yeah, go
Like,
for it.
if that helps. Okay. So I, as I mentioned earlier, I'm slightly older than you. I'm only like 7 years older than you. But we spoke about this when we were speaking to the Team GB women with previously. For me, it's incredible how much kind of gym and weight training has evolved for women in particular. Like, I remember being 16 years old, and like, I'm a former dancer, which is kind of my sport background. I would never have stepped in a gym in my life, would never have known what to do. And the fact now I see young girls at 16, 17, 18 in the gym doing their thing, picking up their weights, training, strength training, training their knees, training like their quads, everything in particular. And that's the thing that I wish female athletes knew, is start early. Get a program, go to the gym, lift your weights, eat your protein, eat properly. You have to eat to fuel yourself to be able to do it. And that's the one thing that I hope continues for forever now. But please, obviously, feel free to share yours. But that's mine, if that helps
Yeah.
you with what I
No,
want.
that's brilliant. And I like, again, completely agree with you. I had a bit of a different experience with it because when I was in high school, when I was in year 9, I transferred and I went to Maribyrnong Sports Academy. And so at my school, we actually did weight training during the day. And I'm having the experience of going to 2 high schools. I definitely was so grateful for my opportunity at Maribyrnong, because how many kids can say that they do strength training during school hours? Like, I would have 9 periods a week where I would be in the gym. And so that even helps when you're going into professional too, because you make an impression. They're like, oh, this girl knows how to lift. But yeah, 100% completely agree with you. And you kind of touched on what I'm about to say because it came to my head, but I think nutrition, as a kind of young female athlete, I definitely had my fair share of hardships. But again, it is so important making sure that you're fueling yourself, because when you're under fueling, you put yourself at risk of injury, stress fractures, they take you out of the game. And so having nutrition and knowing, especially for female athletes, we're all so different and our body requires different things, and we come in all different shapes and sizes. And yeah, I think nutrition is so important. There's obviously heaps of other things, but having access to nutritionist, dietitian, them coming and speaking to you about what you should be eating, I think that's really, really important. And from a Bombers standpoint, that we have that's really accessible. From an American standpoint in college, it wasn't really. It was cool though, because one of the senior girls was doing a thesis, and her thesis was on like the female triad. And I had already learnt this stuff, but that was kind of the first time that it was being introduced into the school. And so like while I had all this prior knowledge, it was so new. But again, it's so important when you're talking things about reds, it all impacts. And so I'd say nutrition.
Phenomenal. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like, as a almost 40-year-old male, I wish I had learned more about nutrition when I was younger, to be fair, as well.
Well, that's even what I mean, because I would have left high school when I was in 2012. So that's when I turned 18. I turned 18 in 2012, and like, yeah, totally. Like, I would never, like, even when I trained in musical theatre. That's my undergrad degree, and we never ever were told to go to the gym. It was always, don't bulk up, because then you become too bulky, and then you're too big, and then you're this, obviously, for like a dance perspective. And it's so amazing because now I dance only for fun now, which is really, obviously, because it was quite damaging going to like a performing arts school, as you can probably imagine. But I now, when I go to these classes, there are girls there who have just finished their training and they're being told to go in the gym, and it's so nice. Obviously, I didn't have the best experience, but it's so amazing to see young women now getting that experience, even guys, because even the boys that used to come and do dance, again, they would be told don't lift weights, but how are they going on a ship and lifting a girl above their head if they can't bench? Like, I don't understand. So yeah, it's really good. It's wonderful to see.
Going back to when I was at high school many years ago, I think I actually probably left high school before you even born, Olivia. That's how I think we're kind of at here. This is how bad it is. Thinking back even then, like, so we're talking what, where am I, about 21 years ago, roughly 21 years ago. I think there was only maybe 2 or 3 guys at my age were going to the gym. Nobody wasn't something that was, as a young male, you were, or even, never mind female, but nobody really went to the gym. I mean, but now when you see, like, my daughter's 16 and she goes to the gym, her friends go to the gym, everybody at that age group now, it's cool to go to the gym. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when I was that age, you were more interested in playing football or hanging out with your mates or playing computer games, whereas now they do seem to see the importance of going to the gym at a young age, which is, for male and female perspective, it's great to see.
Yeah, 100%. It's so good.
Excellent. Let's move back to sports for a wee minute. Exactly. So we're now at June 2025. Thinking back now, that first Australian national women's team was only 2 years ago. That's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to think about it. But in a country, flag football struggles in a lot of countries in terms of where established sports are. In the UK, obviously, soccer's massive, rugby's massive. In Australia, you've obviously got footy, you've got rugby, you've got cricket. There's so many sports there, but the growth, when we spoke to Kate Allman previously, we asked this exact same question. Flag football has exploded in Australia. It's just went stratospheric very, very quickly. What do you think that's down to?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. Yeah, definitely agree. It's definitely grown. I think that there's been a lot of focus on trying to get young kids involved in the sport. So, Paul Monero, who's the head coach the last 2 years, his kind of company is now rolling out flag football programs in schools. And again, you need kind of these young kids to be grown up with it to help the sport grow. Coming from Victoria, I think that footy, like AFL, kind of it takes majority of the kids, but when you look at kind of schools that are in New South Wales and Queensland who are kind of leading flag football in Australia, you can really see that growth. But kind of it doesn't take away from the transferable skills that come from different sports like footy, like rugby. So yeah, definitely been huge, and I think it's just getting that younger generation involved that's really helped. It's actually next week that the Rams have a clinic in Melbourne because there's going to be a game. And so I'm actually going to be working that. And so it's going to be really cool to see kind of young kids that are getting involved in the sport, and they're the future. So if we can kind of get them involved in the sport early and show them how good it is and how fun it is and, you know, what it can be and what you can look to in the future, I think it's really going to help continue to grow it.
Yeah. What I love about flag football, generally, I previously played it as well, is that anybody can play flag football. Like, certain sports, you need to have a certain skill set or you need to have a certain mindset to go and play. Like AFL, for example, you need to have a certain physicality and a certain mindset and a skill set to play that. Whereas any kid could rock up and learn how to play flag football. That's what I love about the sport. Like, you don't have to be a certain physical build. As long as you can understand the fundamentals of the game, you can pick up the rest of it. Like, learning a playbook is difficult, but it's not impossible. Anybody could do it. Do you know what I mean? Which is what I love about flag, and which is why I think there's maybe some kids that maybe want to try certain sports. Maybe they don't have the ability to do it or the mindset to do it. What I think flag football is a great fallback for those kids that, okay, I want to be a footy player, but maybe I'm not good enough. Flag football, anybody can play it, and I think that's been massive to the growth of the game across the world as well.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's a position for everyone in flag, and having that inclusivity is so important in sports. You know, having that connection that we talked about earlier, it really helps when you feel like you belong to a team, and if you do, you're more likely to stay engaged and involved in the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I love it. I don't know if it's the same in the UK, in Australia, and the US, but in the UK we have 2 leagues. So there's a women's league, but there's also, it's not a men's league; it's a mixed league. So the women can play both the women's only league and in the mixed league as well, which is great as well. It's like, because it's not a contact sport, you mentioned it yourself, when you were playing under 19s, you're taking some big hits. Whereas in flag football, there is nothing to stop males and females playing the same sport at the same time because there's no physicality in it, there's no imbalance in terms of performance, I feel, and I think that's great to see as well for the sport.
Yeah, for sure. In Queensland, they have a lot of our leagues, so I think it's probably the biggest there at the moment. There is a mixed league. I'm pretty sure they had a women's league at some point and then a men's league as well. So hopefully we can start to roll out those leagues kind of across the state. But yeah, it's Queensland and New South Wales that are kind of leading it.
Yeah, Queensland are the reigning champions. They have got some team though, haven't they?
Yeah, they're an unbeatable team. I love watching them play. I'd love to play for them someday. But yeah, I mean, they've won 3 years in a row, and they're kind of at the forefront of the game, and it's just something to give other states kind of something to look up to, and it's like, okay, this is how we want to play. So yeah, I mean, credit to them if they can keep it going.
Yeah, and they also have a British head coach as well, I'm pretty sure, don't they?
Pardon?
I'm sure pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Go, Liam.
Liam, if you're listening, come and talk to us. We're actually, someone actually, like, I do want to speak to Liam. I've not actually reached out to him yet, but if he might watch this and it might start a conversation, but yeah, I'd love to talk to Liam. So yeah, I mean, it's great to see that the sport is growing so much in Australia. So let's move back slightly to yourself then. So we're at 2025, you mentioned, we had a wee chat off and you mentioned it yourself earlier on, your next goal is the 2025 Asia Oceania Championships. That's your next focus you've got is getting to the national team for that. Hopefully that will then lead to Australia qualifying for the World Championships in 2026 because as we see with this sport, it's continentals to qualify for Worlds and then the next Worlds is the qualifiers for early 2028. This is the big one. So like your career is just starting in this game, like a couple of years in, you've already achieved so much. You mentioned there your pride at representing Australia at continentals, at Worlds. Has the thought of representing Australia at an Olympic Games entered your mind yet?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. What question is that? No, for sure. It's a massive driver for me, and yeah, absolutely, it's something that I'm working towards. Obviously, there's a lot of steps in between, but I've loved sport for literally as long as I can remember. You know, as a kid, I was always playing with the boys at lunchtime, whether it was footy or whether it was soccer. I loved watching the sport, and I just have this feeling that sport is always going to be a part of my life, and I can't really explain it. It just is. And so to now have the opportunity to be part of a sport that is going to be at the Olympics, like it's huge. It's so surreal, and I know it's going to take a lot of work to get there, but I know every decision I make is going to be working towards that. And you can't get any higher than the Olympics. It is the pinnacle of sport. And so, yeah, it's also kind of what it represents. So kind of representing Australia, you know, representing women, giving young kids something to look up to. I know as a kid, I looked up to kind of so many different female athletes. I was in a generation where we had it. Some generations, unfortunately, didn't have it. You know, for me now, I look at the Matildas and I'm absolutely so inspired about how they've able to grow soccer and to what it is now. I went to one of their games actually when they were playing in Melbourne, and it's such an unreal environment. So to hopefully get to flag football, when you think about the potential for the impact that the Matildas have had, having us being flag football players and having that same impact, that's huge. And then you put the Olympics in there. Yeah, it's an absolute dream, and I really hope that I can make it a reality. We'll see. But I'll try my best.
Just a slight off-topic thing. I don't know if you might have seen this, or I don't know if you've seen it, Sarah, but in Australia, the women's soccer team tends to be a bit more successful than the male team. And they've started, so the women are called the Matildas. They've started calling the male team the Male Tildas. Is it the other ones? They have to catch up with the women.
I get them up. I love that.
That was brilliant. That's very cool. I remember who said it. I remember reading it on Instagram last week. They started calling them the Male Tildas because they are.
Yeah.
As they should. As they should.
I thought it was genius. I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Someone needs to give that guy a pay rise or woman a pay rise. Whoever came up with that policy, that's
some intern somewhere was like, I know what we should do.
Yeah, excellent. Moving back to kind of what's coming next for you, Olivia, you mentioned yourself there at your back playing flag game. Actually, I'm going to give Play HQ a bit of a shout out here. They've got your stats for today up already on the website.
There you go. You can have a look. I did have a pretty good game today.
You got best player. Did you get best player as well?
Yeah, we did lose by 1 point though. It was a nail biter, and I did verse some of my Bombers teammates. So it was at my local club's Keilor. I think the score was like 35-36. Yeah, I did well, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to get points.
So obviously you just mentioned there you're back with training with Essendon and you're playing at the local level at the moment. What does the next few months look like for you?
Yeah, so just going to be training. it's funny that you said like what's next, because I'm not really sure. I have a couple big decisions to make, whether that's going back to the US, whether that's kind of staying here. I have a lot to weigh up. The sport's obviously picking up in Australia, and being so far away in college, it definitely makes that hard. You know, there's going to be two tournaments here in Australia, Capture the Flag and the Asia Pacific Championships. You obviously look at kind of the Asia Oceania Championships. There is so much happening, and being in the US, it is going to be really hard to fly up and back. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but kind of I know that I'm just going to keep training. I'm going to be doing both sports, flag, footy, but they both help each other, I think. But yeah, like you said, the next big goal is Asia Oceania Championships. I really want to make sure that I'm on that national side. But yeah, I think everything that I've been doing in the lead up, going to college, kind of showing that I can play both sides of the ball, training, it's only going to help build towards that. And then LA 2028 in the future. But yeah, I kind of just want to leave the sport in a better place than I found it, and especially for girls coming through. So yeah.
Yeah. Sarah, do you want to get your LA 2028 plug in that you normally get in?
Listen, so, you know, they have to have somebody represent to commentate from every single nation when they go to these things. So if Team GB women can make it, listen, I'm telling you, I'm free. I'll keep the diary open. You give me a phone. I'll be there.
Yes.
I'll be there in my commentary booth. Never commented a game of flag football in my life, but you know what? I'll learn. It's fine.
That's okay.
It's fine.
You got plenty of time. You got another
Right.
2 years.
I'll just lie on my CV. It's like I used to say I could ride a horse when I was an actor. I can't ride a horse. I would have learned though. I would have been there. I'll do it for this.
That's so funny.
Well, I've got someone. Sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say you should go to the European Championships.
Oh, don't. Oh, listen, Olivia. I'll tell you a secret, right? I am probably the busiest person. I just have so much crap going on. Like Dan's like, can you do this date? And I go, no. Can you do this date? No. This one? No. So you're lucky I'm here. You're actually lucky I'm here.
Thank you for being here.
You're so welcome. No problem. I did this for you.
Yeah, I mean, the Euros and things like that is something we would love to do going forward. Me and Brian have got that podcasting experience, but as a podcast, we've only been going for 6 months. So stuff like that is a dream to go and cover those sort of things. We covered the GB Women's Finals Day. That was in Glasgow, so we managed to cover that. But those are things that we would love to go to Paris and cover the Euros. But
I'll just say this loud. If anybody's listening from that and wants to sponsor us,
yeah,
I can't make it, but these guys can. So you can send them instead. Tag them. Just send them below.
If anybody wants to pay for us to go to the Asia Oceanic Championships to meet Olivia and come,
I'll go to them too.
We'll go there.
When's that? When is that? What's the dates for that?
Do you know, has it been announced yet, Olivia, when that is? I can't see anything on IFAF.
I'm pretty sure it's in October.
Yeah.
Sometime in October.
I can do that. I don't have a conference to go to. I don't have an expo to go to. I don't have a holiday. I'll be there. It's also my birthday in October. Great.
Hey, birthday present. You get to work on your birthday.
That's okay. I'll do it. I'll do it for this. It's fine.
We'll go anywhere in the world to cover flag football as long as someone pays for it.
Anywhere.
Excellent. Anyway, we'll get back in the room. Olivia, just to wrap up, for someone that's so young, we've had so much to talk about in your career so far. And as I said earlier, this is only the beginning for you. We look forward to following you as these big milestone events come up over the next couple of years, and hopefully we can get you back on in the future, have a catch up and see where you're at that point as well. So thank you for joining us. I massively appreciate the opportunity for you to come on and share your story and tell us your side of things.
That's so kind. Thank you. I've actually had such a good time. And I've absolutely loved being on the podcast. I love watching you guys and hearing you guys. So would love to do it again in the future.
We certainly will. We've got that on recording now. You've committed to it, so we can pull that back up in the future.
Come on, you can hold it against me. You said this on this date.
Yes. Sarah, thank you for always joining me in the chair.
No problem. This might be one of my favourites. I'm sorry to everybody else that I've done with before, but this might be one of my favourites. You are such an incredible young woman with such an impressive, you're so wise beyond your years. It's unbelievable. So I can't wait to see you continue in your journey with whatever sport takes you and anything beyond that. Because you're just
Thank
incredible.
you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, I've really enjoyed, like, we made a joke about doing the research before, but I've really enjoyed looking at everything you've done and talking about it and stuff like that. I said to the guys last night, like, I obviously kind of taking my notes ready for this recording, and this was one of the hardest ones I had to do because there was so much to cover for someone so young. And we've interviewed people that are maybe a wee bit older than you, and they've obviously had a lot to do in their career so far. You've done that in such a short space of time. I'm like, there's a lot to talk about here for someone who's 21 years of age. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We're delighted that you made the time to speak to us.
No worries. Anytime. Like I said, anytime. I've loved it. And thank you so much for your kind words. I appreciate that.
Thank you. For everyone that is watching or listening, thank you, and we appreciate all your support. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and you're subscribing us to on YouTube and all the major podcast platforms for what we've got coming up. We've got some big plans coming up over the next couple of months. Until next time, we'll see you soon.